So hi, Michael.
Hi.
Today's question is, today many people who come to Advaita show important problems of what functioning in this world means with regards to their family, couples, or professional relationships, and try to apply Bhagavan's highest teachings without success to resolve or to get rid of the conflicts that they are still are unaware that they want to preserve, since it is the ego that still rules or governs their interactions. So, what suggestions and practical recommendations would you give to those who, having understood the subtlest of the teachings, deceive themselves by trying to emulate a state of non-doer or to live beyond the dream in the face of the evidence of such imbalances that prevent them from directing their attention to the self and not even realizing self-inquiry and surrender?
Right. Firstly, what governs all our interactions is ego. Until ego is annihilated, it is all our interactions are governed by ego. And when ego is annihilated, there will be no interactions because there'll be no other to interact with. And you also, part of the wording of this question, it says, having understood the subtlest of the teachings. If we really understood the subtlest of the teachings, we wouldn't deceive ourselves trying to emulate the state of non-doer. We cannot emulate the state of non-doer. So long as we rise as ego, we are in effect the doer. Because all actions are done by mind, speech, and body. So long as we rise as ego, we identify this mind, speech, and body as I. So we cannot avoid doership so long as there is ego. Only when ego is annihilated will doership be annihilated. So there's no, if we've understood the teachings correctly, we will not be trying to be the non-doer. We need to, in order to experience ourselves as the non-doer, we have to turn our attention within and know what we actually are. So long as we rise as ego, in effect, we are a doer. Because as ego, though ego is not actually what is doing the actions. Actions are done by body, speech, and mind. But because ego identifies this body, speech, and mind as I, as ego, we always seem to be the one who is doing the actions. I am thinking, I am talking, I am sitting or standing or walking or whatever. So this doership we cannot overcome. The teachings of Bhagavan are the sole aim of the teachings of Bhagavan is to turn our attention within. But so long as we allow our attention to go outwards, there seems to be a world, there seem to be relationships. We've got family, we've got husband, wife, partner, whatever. We have relationships at work. We have relationships of so many different types. We have to act in this world as if all this is real. Why is that? Because what is acting in the world is mind, speech, and body. Mind, speech, and body are part of the world in which they are interacting. So they have to interact we have to let the mind, speech, and body continue interacting in the world as if it's all real. What we have to do, we have to separate ourselves from this mind, speech, and body. How do we separate ourselves? By turning our attention within. When we turn our attention within, then there's no relationships, there's nothing, there's just I am. So we shouldn't be trying to we shouldn't try to apply the teachings in our outward actions. If we try to apply in our outward actions, that itself shows that we have not understood the teachings correctly, because the outward actions, certain actions, the body, speech, and mind are destined to do. Why are they destined to do? Because we have to experience a certain pre-planned destiny. In order for us to experience that, certain actions are necessary of mind, speech, and body. Because if the mind, speech, or body don't do those actions, we won't be able to experience what is destined. So certain actions are driven by destiny. Other actions are driven by our will. It may not be our destiny. For example, I may want to be a great singer, but it's not my destiny to be a great singer. I can practice singing as much as I like, but because I don't have the skill or I don't have the destiny, however much I practice, however much I try, I'm never going to be a great singer. So, but the fact, though it is not my destiny to be a great singer, I can have a desire to be a great singer, and I can try to be a great singer. So, destiny determines what we are to experience, and also what we must do in order to experience that. But our will can, just because something is destined or not destined, doesn't mean doesn't mean we cannot want what is not destined, or we cannot want to avoid what is destined. We are free to want whatever we want, and we're also free to a certain extent to make efforts to fulfill our desires. But if what we desire is not destined, it will not happen. And if it is destined, it would happen even if we didn't desire it. So some actions are driven solely by destiny. Some actions are driven solely by desire. Some actions are driven by desire and destiny working in harmony. But we need not be concerned about these things. Only thing we need to be concerned about, in order to avoid doing actions driven by our desires, we don't have to worry about our actions. All we have to worry about is about curbing our desires. How to curb our desires? By turning our attention within. So as long as we try as much as possible to turn our attention within in order to know what we actually are, and thereby to surrender what we are not, namely this ego, that is sufficient. Nothing else is necessary. But if whatever else we may do, if we are not turning our attention within, it's of no use. We haven't really, the measure of the extent to which we really understood Bhagavan's teachings is how much are we actually putting them into practice, how much are we actually turning our attention within, how much are we ceasing to be concerned about our external life and whatever may happen in it. The external life is going on according to destiny. Let destiny take care of it. It's no concern of ours.
Yes. And going back to the question, because usually when someone comes to this path, they don't fully understand Bhagavan's teachings at once. Of course, we can agree on that.
Yes.
But one can have a very sharp mind and maybe not make sense of the subtlest of the teachings, because as you said, no one does until the ego is completely eradicated. But however, emotionally speaking, one can still be an emotional wreck, so to speak, and because emotions, especially the strongest ones, have a lot of momentum, and they can easily sweep away the effort that one puts into doing self-inquiry, for example, and sabotage self-inquiry. So the attitude would be to develop in those moments, like when all these strongest emotions come. What would be the attitude to have that? I mean, if even though you try to make the effort, it's impossible, and you keep going back to that. There's no way out from that vicious circle.
The nature of the mind is to move and be unsteady. So the mind is constantly changing. And these changes within the mind, these emotions, and they are driven by emotions. What is driving us to move this way and that way? The inner feelings that are driving us. But whatever emotions we may feel at any time never lasts. At times you may feel emotions of love, at times you may feel strong desire, at times you may feel fear, at times you may feel, we may feel all sorts of emotions may arise in us, but they all pass, nothing lasts. Some emotions come again and again and again, but there's no emotion that is present all the time. What we feel at one time, we forget about at other times. So no matter how strongly we may feel it at one time, at other times we forget about it. So let us not be overly concerned about emotions. Our aim should be to turn our attention inwards as much as we can. When emotions drag our mind outwards, let it go. Let the mind go outwards. When the emotion has calmed down, then we draw it back within. What is required in this path, as Bhagavan often said, is perseverance. We will fail any number of times, but failure doesn't matter. But nobody has succeeded in anything in life, whether spiritual undertaking or worldly undertaking, without failure. But there's a saying, the road to success is paved with failure. If you've never failed, you'll never succeed. We all have, for example, when we learn to ride a bicycle, we fail so many times, we fall off a bicycle so many times. If you've never fallen off a bicycle, you've never learned to ride a bicycle. You have to fail many times before you succeed. And it's like that with any worthwhile undertaking in life. We will initially we fail, but by persevering, we eventually succeed. So in the spiritual path, it doesn't matter how many times we fail, so long as we continue trying, continue persevering.
And for example, there is like, well, you talked about it, that there is like a self-assessment mechanism of ego to see if it's making progress, to discern if some action come from ego, come from self, come from grace, come from whatever. That is another distinction. So is that we are not to judge about that, because
yes, that is just another distraction.
Yes.
The ideas of making progress, any idea is something other than ourselves. Why should we think about whether we're making progress or not? All Bhagavan has asked us to do, put it into practice now. Try to turn within. If we're turning within, we won't be thinking about progress. If we're thinking about progress, our attention is facing outwards, not inwards.
So we're doing the same thing. So we're doing the same thing basically as if we were, let's say, for example, if you want to become a singer and you evaluate yourself and you self-assess yourself to see if you're making progress, and we're applying the same pattern here in spirituality.
Yes, yes, but this is a very different type of undertaking. It may be appropriate for a singer to evaluate themselves, but in this path, we cannot evaluate our progress on this path. All we need to do is to turn our attention within. Whenever we notice the attention has gone outwards, turn it back within. Whether we are making progress or how far we are from a goal or how near we are from a goal, why should we unnecessarily think about these things? We shouldn't be thinking about anything other than ourselves.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess for many people, including myself, of course, it's hard to keep the mind so like one single point, and one so sharply only focused in one thing without trying to assess itself and so on.
That is true. We all, following this path, all of us are constantly failing, constantly our attention is going outwards towards other things. But this is where what we talked about earlier, discernment, is necessary. We need to recognize what thought. Well, all thoughts are useless. All thoughts other than self-attentiveness are useless. But these sort of thoughts related to how far we are from a goal, or whether we're going to reach the goal, or whether we're making progress, these are all absolutely meaningless. It doesn't matter whether we are going to annihilate the ego now, or in next minute, or in 10 years, or in 10 lifetimes, or 100 lifetimes. What does it matter? All that matters now, all Bhagavan has asked us to do, turn within and surrender. That's our business. Leave everything else to him.
Yes, at least we should try to focus on that.
Yeah, that should be our aim. That should be our aim. And we cannot, even if we try to measure our progress. We cannot. So why to undertake something that we know is going to, we cannot judge how near or far we are from our goal. And it really doesn't matter. All that matters is we are asked to surrender ourselves. So we are not seeking to gain something. We're seeking to give up everything.
But sorry, Michael, relatively speaking, for example, as we said before, like if you self-inquire like 80% of the time, or in some other person is 10%, we would say that, well, relatively speaking, there is like a difference in the attention that one gives to oneself. So
yes, but by what yardstick are we to measure this?
Yes.
Do we look at our watch every time we turn our attention towards ourselves? Okay, last time I did for 2 seconds. Let me try 3 seconds now. If we're doing that, we are not doing self-attention.
That's right. That's right.
We're doing time attention instead.
Yeah.
Forget about
comparing ourselves.
About all these things. What we are looking for is not what lies in the future. Moksha or something may lie in the future. If it lies in the future, it's no use to us. What we are looking for is what is here and now. What is here and now is I am. Look at I am. That's all we need to be concerned about. Now, be self-attentive. Be attentive to that which is ever present. Then we need not worry about what will happen in the future. Will I get realization? Will I not get realization? Will I get realization in this lifetime or in some other lifetime? Will it come soon? Will it come later? This is all thinking about things other than ourselves. Our only business is to attend to ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, the important thing is what we do here and now, of course.
Yeah. And think about nothing else. Don't even think about time.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, so thank you very much.
That which is ever present.
Yes, exactly.